And hello, everyone. It is April the 1st, but this is not an April Fool's video. This just happens to be the day I'm making this. And I'm going to share a few things with you. I'm on my new computer with my new background and my new uh, camera and audio for you. So I'm hoping this will be decent quality for our videos going forward. Thank you again. I'll talk about the Rennes Le Chateau editing and everything else that's coming out, but I want to get focused on what I want to say today. And that is, I just finished my first interview of this interview period. I got about 8 ready to go. And I did it with Campbell, another one of our, um, on his Spiral Up channel, of our Rules of the Realm. And it's an outstanding video. The link is in the description. Campbell usually takes a couple of days to put it up, so you can expect it by Sunday or Monday. Again, really watch it. Our videos, our conversations tend to really bring in something really, really important more and more as we go along. And in fact, we're going to do something really interesting with those videos. I don't want to say yet what we're going to do. Idea came today while we were talking. But I talked about a few things in that video, and I want to share some of them as a preview so that you can see why the video is important to talk about. The first was, it always takes us about 20 minutes to get into where that conversation is going to wind up. And we began the conversation talking about trying to understand reality and trying to recognize the distraction of reality, that reality as we experience it tends to be a distraction. Okay, we've talked about that a number of times. People like Matt talks about it a lot. But that began to get into ideas of manifestation, and I talked quite a bit about some things I got from Richard Rose and even things I got from Mr. Park long before that. The ideas of not wanting to change reality, not wanting, because you don't know what reality is. So you don't want to be imposing your wants. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean that isn't how it should be from the standpoint of the realm. And that led me into thinking about an idea that we may be dealing with two realities. We're dealing with an original reality, the original thing that this dream or experience was meant to be. And that's now kind of behind the scenes. And we have now been placed like a set of curtains in front of a stage. So the real reality is the stage behind, but we've something as in a sense has hijacked this reality and put a layer of curtains in front of it. And the most important thing for the we'll call it the beings or the consciousness that created the reality we experience is to keep us focused on the curtains, not to want us to try to open the curtains, to go past the curtains and look to where real reality is, but to keep us distracted on the curtains. And one of the ways of distracting is trying to keep fixing them, trying to keep fixing reality. And I began to say, I think that's because all of us in our own way have had an experience of this more true reality, at least one, if not more. We know there's something very, very different than what we experience. The problem is part of this reality has been trying to brainwash us through the so-called guru movement and the self-help book movement that we can control this reality. We can fix it. We can make it what we want. We can egotistically have the experience and the life we want if we just follow all of these rules and have an unbelievably focused mind. And here's the thing. Even if that's true, even if you can do that from the standpoint of the reality we experience, you're seeing it's not real reality. It's not truth. It's false. So all you're doing is changing the pattern on the curtains. You're changing the movement pattern or the way they sway in the wind or the color of them or the thickness of them. It doesn't matter. It's a false reality. It's a cover. It's a cover to what's real. So to spend all of this time trying to fix something you're not supposed to fix is a distraction in itself. And it's taking you away from what you really need to do, which is go past it. But it links it. I mean, people wouldn't be wanting to do it if there wasn't a feeling that, in a way, you can. You can, and of course you can, because there's a link to this much more real reality, this much more true reality. And we're trying to reach it, but we think the world of plants and desks and dogs and giraffes and news stories is that reality, just um, somehow filtered to us. It's not. None of it is the true. All of it is. All of it is a front. All of it is a distraction. And so I share some stories with Campbell of these times this real reality bursted through, and from there we moved on to the concept of meditation. And I shared that, of course, as I've shared here many times and shared in my book, that meditation as it is normally presented is a distraction as well. This idea of wanting to sit still and have a quiet, happy mind as a practice is a distraction. It's not that that doesn't have value. That has value, but it has value if you're using that as a warm up to a much more deeper, much more real practice you're going to do. You can't just close your eyes and shut off reality and just have a blank mind and think you've done something. What you've done is turned off the conscious thinking mind, which is a big part of the implant we have of keeping us focused on the curtain, of creating the duality, of creating the judgment, of creating the wants, of creating the fears, creating the desires, to focus on the curtain. So what is known as generally meditation is to begin the practice of shutting that down, so that when we come out of it in 15 or 20 or 25 minutes, it doesn't need to be long periods of time. Now, now we move into the practice we're going to do, the practice that is designed to either go deeper within or is designed to take us through the curtain, open the veil of Isis, right? The veil of Isis. That's why I like this idea of a curtain. And I'm going to try to continue with this metaphor as we go along in videos. That here's the real reality, and this veil of Isis is a curtain that has been laid over top of us, or maybe dropped down on top of us. And our job is to, similar to what you see in the Vatican. And now I think that's part of what well, maybe Michelangelo wasn't the one who did the actual curtains. That might have been Botticelli. I'm not sure, but everyone looks at the ceiling and the back and the far wall where Michelangelo did his work. But for me, the most interesting part of the Sistine Chapel is the side walls, and not where the paintings are, where it's just curtains. It's not real curtains; it's painted. They painted curtains on the walls, right? They could have painted similar beautiful artwork, but the artists chose to put curtains. And I think that's why it's a metaphor of opening the curtain. That if you look behind, on the other side of the curtain, you're going to see the real reality. And these curtains are a metaphor for the veil of Isis, for what is blocking us from the world. And meditation is just going to, you can meditate for 30 years and nothing's going to happen for you, other than you have brief periods of calmness. So what? It's like, so you've changed a few props in the show of reality, of the dream reality. Big deal. You haven't really learned anything. You hit 60 or 70 and you die, and so what? The point is, the peaceful mind is used to take the next step into your practice, into what you really need to do to understand reality, to understand yourself. I bought some books, some novels recently, some which are very good, some which have been recommended to me, one of which I don't want to go get it, but it was A Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman, a book that I read 20 years ago. I kind of liked it. Really terrible movie. I went to see the movie. It was just horrible, but I thought the book was not too bad. And I was going to read it to my wife at night before she goes to bed. But when I leaf through it again, because I hadn't seen it in like 20 years, and I leaf through it and looking at it, and it's just like, it's all just fortune cookie, wisdom. There's really nothing in here that's of any value. And she made a comment when we were talking about it, that the problem is the book is no longer relevant. The book was written in the 1980s. And in the 1980s, in general, life was pretty good. Everything was presented as fine. It's the era of the self-help guru. You can do anything. If you just put your mind to it, you can create anything at all. Ronald Reagan is taking the United States to the next level. And sure, what I'm looking at with a novel story like Way of the Peaceful Warrior and most of what we know of um, what you might call spiritual literature of the last 30 or 40 years, it sort of had a place, even though I still now don't think there's much real wisdom in it at all, but it had little bits of use in that time frame. And it's really no more than a historical snapshot of this is what people were thinking and doing in like 1985. But it's not relevant today. We have entered a completely new era. We've entered a completely new thing, and the world around us for 2 years is squashing down on us. It is trying to crush anyone who's trying to see anything real. So all of those old stories, like that book, are no longer relevant. And the number and if you look at what are the things being pushed in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, meditation, being in the now, mindfulness, all of this organizational, easy to sell junk. That's the best way you can describe it. Organizational, easy to sell junk. That is not necessarily totally bad. I mean, mindfulness and being aware of what's going on probably would have saved me dropping my computer on the ground and having to get a new one. However, on the other hand, by being unmindful, opened up a much greater opportunity and a much greater experience than had I kept the old laptop and it hadn't broke. So here we are back to full circle, right? This idea that Campbell and I started the conversation with of trying to fix reality or trying to have reality the way you want it to be. I mean, if you asked me, of course, 7 or 10 days ago, do you want to take your laptop and drop it on the ground and bust it to all shreds? No. Why would I want that? That sounds like a really stupid thing. Now, 10 days later, thanks to opening myself up and sharing it with you guys and everybody being so kind and sharing with me, I've had a complete changeover of experience, of thought, of thinking, of doorways that have opened. There's no question it was a part of sharing with you, and sharing it with you was a part of finding the ring. I feel different. I feel much more I feel much more life inside of me, even though maybe I don't fully show it yet, but I feel much more alive. And so you're back to this idea of thinking we know what's best for reality. We know what reality should be. And we've been told for almost our whole life to fix it, as opposed to maybe we need to, and that's what something Campbell brought up. Maybe we need just to learn how to react to it in the right way. That all reality's doing is creating experiences so that it gets a reaction from us. And normally, then I brought up near the end of the video, we're always reacting in the same way. We're very habitual. We're very robotic. We do the same thing over and over again. The same thing happens externally. We respond the same way. We walk to work the same way. We sit the same way in the chair. Everything is the same. And then I shared some stories with him of how I went through the period of not doing, where I went through the period of just acting really, really spontaneous. Because as soon as you act spontaneous, the world doesn't know what to do. People don't know what to do. I shared, I don't want to share too much from the video directly because I want you to go see it on Spiral Up. But I talked about when someone puts their hands out to shake your hand, they're expecting you to put your hand out and you shake, hi, how you doing? But one time somebody put their hand out. I met them once or something. So I at least knew who they were. And I just went to say, like this. And they had their face, like it went blank because their mind went blank. They didn't know what to do. 10,000 times they put their hand out to shake someone's hand and the person shakes their hand. Now, for the first time, someone didn't do that, did something absolutely bizarre, and they were literally stone blank for like 5 seconds. And it like took them a while to sort of clue in. And, I just said something funny. Oh, yeah, I was just greeting you differently or something. So how you doing? I just sort of brushed over it so we could begin our conversation or whatever it was, the reason we were meeting in the first place. But for me, it was this 5 second interval where literally they had no mind. They were literally in a state of no mind. What's that? The shock of Zen, right? Where certain Zen techniques, the Zen master does certain things to shock the student. The idea being that when you do something so crazy, the mind the mind stops because it's expecting certain behavior. It's expecting the world and the people to respond in a certain way. So we talked a bit about, if you want to start seeing reality open its doors, if you want to start getting holes in that screen, if you want to start getting the curtains to move a little bit, or if you're going to even manifest, even if you're going to try some of these creation manifestation techniques, if you're going to keep acting the same way, thinking the same way, doing the same thing, nothing can change in reality because reality is expecting you to respond in a particular way. And as long as you keep responding in the way you're expected, it's always going to respond that way. More importantly, you will then keep doing, if you keep doing the same thing over and over, there's no space for anything different in your own being to come out, because where is the space? If you do the same thing all the time, the same way, in the same manner, with the same language, that's all you yourself will be. You yourself are a known thing. And Castaneda was very clear that a huge part of the practice was not so much that you make the world unknown. You want to make yourself unknown. You want to be unknown to yourself. You want to get to the point where you don't know what you're going to do 5 minutes from now. Where literally, instead of thinking you've got every moment of your day planned out and you know exactly how you're going to respond, the more spontaneous you are in day-to-day moments, the more likely you're just not going to know what you're going to do 10 minutes from now. And that creates this space of unknowing, this space of possibility, this space of something new to happen. You see? So I'm sharing this with you because the conversation was really important, really valuable again. And so I really want you to watch it, but I wanted to not just say, oh, go watch it, then wait 2 or 3 days to start thinking about it. Great, you can start thinking about it now from this video and be more prepared to now listen to what we're going to say and the more stories, more depth, more discussion, because we're on to something. I think this idea of, again, a veiled reality, a false reality purposely placed over top of the real reality to fool us, but it's not unbelievably thick. The curtain or the veil is not massively thick. It's relatively thin, and it can be broken. It can be pierced. It can be seen through. But we have to want to see through it. We have to be willing to know that there's a much more true experience here, and that we have to not get caught, not get trapped, not get emotionally sucked in too much to the reality we're given. We can't ignore it. Again, you can't just shut your eyes and try to be in a happy place. You have to deal with a very insane place. But we don't want to get sucked in too much that we forget what the real work is here about inward and outward work. So that was the overview of the conversation. It'll be up in a couple of days, so please go and dig into it and see what comes of that. I'm going to talk with Bart Marshall again tomorrow. It's been a couple of months since we had, I guess a month and a half since we did our last talk. Very well received. We don't know what we're going to talk about yet either. We're going to get into that tomorrow. For sure, it's going to go up on Free Voice on the weekend, depending on what we discuss. It may also go on YouTube or not, I don't know, but for sure, I don't want to try to censor Bart and tell him what he can or can't say or how he wants to say it. So that means a place like Free Voice means it can go there, and we don't have to worry about what we say or what words we use. But that's going to come up tomorrow. And then Wednesday, I'm doing another one with Emily and Michael. We haven't talked in a long time there. We were going to go into a new format, but all of us went through challenges in the last month. All of us went through very strange experiences, and we're going to share them together as we think as a way to not only to help each other gain something that maybe we don't see from the experience or we haven't seen, but to share them all with you, because reality is challenge and difficulty. Everyone, probably 99% of you watching this channel, has not had 1 year of perfectly smooth, absolutely fantastic life. You've had difficulty and challenges and problems, and probably lots of things that you definitely were not expecting that got thrown at you. So you can hear us talk about them and see how that can relate of value to where you are. Beyond that, I've just been putting the new PC together, which has been a learning experience in itself because I didn't want to pay somebody. That normally I just pay somebody to put the Windows system on, and I wanted to learn it myself. I wanted to learn the whole process, and that's taken days of my week, making mistake after mistake. But I've learned a tremendous amount from doing that, and so I'm valuable for not totally giving in. I don't need the details, but it's been a learning experience. I'm very happy with what's here. I think the quality will be good for all of you, and that's the end result, which is the most important. So again, thanks to everyone for sharing and providing donations when I ask for some help this week. This has been, like I say, beyond what I had expected. It's a wonderful gift. For all of you who are sent in the Rennes Le Chateau reminder, I'm finishing the editing work later tonight. I'm about page 20. It's going to be a 30 to 32 page document, something like that. I'll make sure it's not a 33-page document, just for all of you um, number geometry people out there, but I'll make sure it's 30 or 32 pages. But it's going to be a decent sized document. It'll be 2 chapters. It's going to take you into the little bit of the background of the Rennes Le Chateau story and into the parchments and the paintings. And chapter 3 starts to take you into the church. So we won't, that's where it stopped. But I'll start sending them out Sunday. So Sunday, Monday, you can start expecting to check your email folder and your email files and see if it's arrived. So I'm just finishing the editing today. Beyond that, it's just a little bit more. I mean, obviously, new place. There's still lots to do. There's still boxes to unpack and things to put on the walls and bookshelves to get. So there's still little bits of work. It's still snowing. There's still lots of snow out here. So I'd like to get it a little bit less wintry before I take you around and show you where I'm at. Beyond that, yeah, there you are. Check for Campbell's video on Spiral Up. Video link below. I do the talk with Bart tomorrow, and I'll let you know when that's up. Michael and Emily should come up later on in the week, and then we've got some other interviews. I do another one with Amara Strand next Saturday. So it's also for those of you who liked Bart's and Amara's video last time. I'll end with this. If you really liked those videos, now I've got some time, a day for Bart and a week for Amara. If you have a question or a topic you'd like either one of them to discuss, put it in the comments below, and it's something I can look at and bring up with them and see if that's a subject they'd like to cover in our talk. It's, part of it is what do we want to talk about, but it helps to know what all of you want us to talk about. You're the ones that are putting in the time to hear what we have to say, so we might as well try to maneuver some of the topics into areas that are interesting to you. So for Bart and Amara, leave the messages below, and thanks again for everything, and we will be seeing you very soon. Cheers.